Please let me know when you can see my screen, Dom.
We can see it, Nizuka.
Okay, let me go on to presenter mode. Thanks. So the session continues with the conference theme of nurturing academic success through an improved or enhanced student learning experience. A number of presenters have touched on student-centeredness or learning-centeredness, as Dom just mentioned now. And in this session, we're going to be exploring these two approaches more closely. So student-centeredness or student-centered learning or student-centered a student-centered approach, as the two terms are used interchangeably, and learning-centeredness are complex approaches and also ambiguous, and they mean different things to different people. Therefore, we need to navigate this session in a way that caters for all the various perspectives. Sorry, I'm trying to change my slides. Is it changing, Dom?
Yeah, just changed.
Okay, thank you. So we are proposing that we structure this session as follows. Time is going to be tight, but please, this should not constrain us from engaging deeply with each other. So I've already gone through the introduction. Sorry, Zama, your hand is up.
No, sorry, that was a mistake, Nozuko.
Okay, all right, thanks. So I am, I've gone through the intro already, and we're going to have just a quick provocations session just to get us all thinking deeply. And then we'll break away into smaller groups for a more in-depth discussion. And then there are two questions that we're going to request that you sort of respond to as a group. Then we'll come back to the plenary. As you can see, we'll have just 12 minutes for that to consolidate our ideas. And then if we manage our time well, we'll wrap up and close, but our conversations should please carry on. This is just, you know, this kind of a start of it here, but these conversations have been going on anyway in both informal and formal spaces. So please feel free to engage with us. And like I say, the time is definitely going to be a challenge, but we obviously can't have the whole day to do this. So we're using a critical dialogic method for this session. And you know that has got its roots in the critical pedagogy with people like Bakhtin and Freire. And this is because we would like everyone to sort of engage deeply with all each other's perspectives, just to get to look at the work that's good work that everyone is already doing, but just to take it a bit further. So we would like to ensure that there's maximum participation from all of us. And I hope everyone will sort of be able to add their voice to the conversation. So the aims of the session are as follows then. We would like to obviously focus on our practices. So I'm just warning you in advance, it might be a bit uncomfortable because we're shining the spotlight on our own teaching approaches and why in case we teach the way we do. And these approaches, as you know, are informed by obviously our beliefs, our cultural experiences, our understanding of how students learn. And as we heard yesterday from what Prof. Imad said, about how important it is that we kind of understand that process, and also understand how important it is for us to enhance the teaching and learning environments. Also, our preconceptions and our biases and our beliefs form a big part of our teaching and learning philosophies. So we want to explore how our teaching enhances or inhibits the student learning experiences. So our values and our teaching and learning philosophies can basically open up or close towards student access and student success. So we kind of, that's why it is very important then that we foreground these approaches, we explore them deeper, we think more critically about why we are doing things the way we are doing them. And obviously the other aim is to enhance a community of reflexive and reflective practitioners, which is already in existence really, but just to sort of have sort of a group of people chatting to each other. Like I said, to just ensure that the space is safe-ish for most people, please let us be just considerate and note the following, that there will be no judgment. We will listen to each other, especially in these breakaway rooms. And let me apologize in advance for any discomfort that the provocation that we're going to have now might have on you. It's all meant to just get us to think deeper about our practices. So we're going to start with a provocation now. My colleagues through the voice plays will share their approaches to teaching. And please listen carefully and try and understand where they're coming from or which one you identify with. So please listen to their voices, and please note, like we say, it's just kind of exaggerated as well, just to get us thinking. And if I can apologize from one of my colleagues, Natasha has got a cold, so I hope we'll be able to hear her clearly. So colleagues, please, Tanya, if you can start.
Mic is muted.
That never gets old, does it? Okay. Good afternoon, colleagues, and thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts on teaching in higher education. I consider it an honor to be a lecturer at WITS and take also, that tier of my academic portfolio very seriously because I integrate it with research. Hence, I have a PhD in higher education studies. So I'm always very well prepared for my lectures, updating the content regularly, and which I expect my students to engage with, because I'm committed to the process. So the assessments are very carefully aligned with the learning outcomes and content. And that's why I expect my students to be present and engaged during our very focused lectures. Look, I'm not going to police anyone who chooses not to engage during our sessions, whether by not participating or dozing off, during our lectures, coming late, or asking in the morning workshop if they can take lunch at 12 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock. I believe we all are adults and everyone is capable of taking responsibility for their choices, and I respect students' autonomy. However, I do grapple with certain behaviors, such as arriving late for lectures, because I'm concerned that like a daisy call behavior signifies disrespect for the discipline, the profession. So I try to sensitize students about the importance of professional behavior, for example, modeling it, So that's always part of preparing them for me. It's definitely part of preparing them for the future. So in conclusion, I am passionate about teaching my students and cultivating excellence so that they can become independent and lifelong learners. I love my job. Thanks. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Tanya.
Okay, I suppose I'm on, is it good?
Yes, please, Ines.
All right, okay. Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you for hearing us out here. So in my learning and teaching practice, I create a very collaborative learning environment where my participants and I learn together. Each of our sessions starts by reviewing the learning objectives from the participant guide that I have prepared months before my course actually starts, and I ensure that everyone knows what we aim to achieve. We engage in group discussions and problem-solving activities that encourage critical thinking and allow me to learn from diverse viewpoints. I use various teaching methods, facilitation methods like interactive presentations, multimedia, and hands-on projects to cater for the different learning styles. In my class, feedback goes both ways. I provide personalized suggestions to help my participants improve, and I also ask for their feedback on my learning and teaching practices. This exchange actually helps us all grow and improve. Also, reflection plays a big role because it provides students with regular chances to think about their learning while at the same time allowing me to adapt my approach. The course content stays relevant to students' real-world experiences, and I'd like to remind you that our classroom is an active space where learning is a shared journey, helping both students and I grow in our understanding of whatever it is that I am practicing and teaching. Thank you.
Yes. Natasha, please go ahead.
Firstly, good afternoon, everybody. I just want to apologize for not putting my camera on. I look worse than I sound. So to protect your eyes, I'm not going to put my camera on. But for me, for my teaching, the student has to be at the center of everything. So everything that I do, the content, my preparation for my classes, the outcomes, the activities that I plan, it all has to center around the student. And that means I have to know my students. So my entire, from the time the semester starts, from the very first lecture, the very first session I have with them, I start getting to know my students. So it's very important to know them, their backgrounds, their diversity. And we know that in South Africa, we have a very unique, diverse group of students with a very unique history. And so it's very important to find out who they are, what that background is, and to tailor my classes and my teaching to them. So I strongly believe that in the higher education space, the student is the most important stakeholder. And so everything should be tailored and customized around that student. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. So we are now going to request one of the organizers, Pokazi, will randomly allocate us to the various breakaway rooms for our discussions. I hope you were able to sort of pick up some of the things that you identify with from my colleagues. So we're going to chat about our own context now. So the first question will be on, given your context, which approach matters to you? Is it the student-centeredness, the teaching-centeredness, or the learning-centeredness? And what enables or challenges your approach? So once we're done, we've got 15 minutes for the discussions. And once we're done, the facilitators, with your permission, of course, will take back the abstractions to the plenary. We're going to have like a consolidation of the ideas, like I said, and then after that, we're going to close. There's quite a lot of resources that we can share as well, and please feel free to share on the chat as well. Pokazi, please just send us to the breakaway rooms. So we're going to just request people to just say what they've taken away from the discussion. And sorry for those who didn't get to voice their opinion, because we didn't have too much time really in our group. I don't know about the other groups.
So from our side, actually, we got to be Rita, Tanya, and myself were in one room. Tanya, you made some notes. Do you want to basically just?
Nazira, you can also go ahead. Yeah, you have excellent consolidation abilities.
So basically, what we picked up, I mean, this was the last conversation, but Linnell made some valid points, and Rita, you can come in on that. Rachel, you spoke about, it's just not about the student-centeredness or the teacher-centeredness or learning-centeredness and so forth, because you wanted to get the teaching done. And I think what we picked up was that there was it reflects a deeper complexity, because it can have several consequences, right? And we were just about discussing the consequences, because focusing solely, on getting that teaching done rather than centering on these approaches, it does have consequences that reflect that deeper complexity. And my question was then, if there's consequences to it, what are some of the things that we need to consider, like is there possibility that we could have missed opportunities for critical reflection, or is there even a possibility that there's surface learning taking place over deeper understanding, where your approach becomes task oriented rather than sort of learning oriented, because students, there's possibility that students could engage in some sort of surface learning, completing the tasks and probably just looking at information for short-term retention. That was one of the things that I was going to raise, and maybe the narrow focus on outcomes over process. I don't know. Rita?
Thank you.
I think Nozuko may want to move on. I'll put some thoughts in the
Thank you.
chat.
Okay.
Yes, can we please move on the next group, please?
Okay, so group or room 2, I just had a few people in there, and but some interesting things that came out is, people's conception of student-centered learning. For example, one of the people in the room said it's difficult to he finds this concept difficult purely because it's difficult to get to know every single student. He finds that intimidating. How do you get to know students? And then just the basic ideas of student versus learning centered was it can be student centered, and it depends on the context of what you're teaching and how you're going about this. What's the setting? Ashad phrased it nicely. What's the educational setting? And it's about, if you want to develop student skills like critical thinking, those kind of things, those sort of specific skills, that's student centered, whereas learning centered is more opportunities for learning. What's interesting is two different participants said the same thing, but they called it different things. For one person, learning centered is about teaching students about learning and how to learn and how to recognize opportunities for learning, so they become more self-directed learners. And one person called that learning centered, and somebody else said that's a student centered skill. So I like the fact that there's that blurry line in between, which means we're not working in paradigms here. These are not completely different concepts. They're almost like on a spectrum.
Thanks, Nat. And also it speaks to what we were saying about meaning different things to different people.
Absolutely.
And also the complexity of it all. Okay, quickly let's move to the next group, please.
I think if people don't know which group you are in, just jump in.
Okay, yes, please. Thanks, Dom, for that. Because now it was difficult to know who's where. So Balitia, maybe report on our group then. Would you be happy to do that? Just summarize it, please.
You can go for it, Nozuko. You took some notes there.
Okay, I wasn't supposed to. But anyway, in our group, it was again what Net was saying about the different aspects of it. So one of us, for instance, said they go very much student-centered, and it is because of what they teach. So that was quite interesting because what they need is to get the students to be passionate. Sorry, Fatima? To be passionate about what the subject that she's teaching, and this colleague of ours has got quite a number of students, but basically that's how she has to do it, because the subject is such that you cannot teach it, as she put it. And then the other person also said they will challenge their student-centeredness, but rather call it student responsiveness, because of them, they basically respond to the needs of the students. So that was quite an interesting one as well. Yeah, that's all we had. And let's move to the next one, Lanelle. Please go ahead.
Hi, Nazuka. I was with Nazira and Rita.
Oh,
in
were
our-
you? Okay.
Yeah, so
okay.
that was what we,
So that
what we
was covered.
discussed, yeah.
Okay, then other group, please. Fatima, which group were you in? Okay, let's move on then. I hope we were able to.
I can do
Okay,
group.
please go
I
ahead.
can do
Please
group.
go ahead.
I can do group 5. So
Thank you.
I think learning is a biologically primary skill. So I think all learning per definition almost is learning centered. So all learning happens through a process of learning, and so that you might want to focus on exactly what the process is as a extension of that approach. But I almost view learning as a learning centered process with teacher centeredness and student centeredness overlaid on top of that. As like a sliding scale. So the more teacher centered you are in the learning centeredness, the less voice your students have, the less agency your student has, and the more control is exercised by your students. And the other way around, the more student centered you are, the more they control their individual pace and approach to learning. And I think we should not say that teaching centeredness is better than student centeredness. I think there's different teaching moments, and for certain teaching moments, certain approaches might be different. So if you're entering into a new knowledge domain, Paul Kirchner says direct instruction is just the best way ever. But when you get to higher order thinking, direct instruction just doesn't work. You have to get into higher order thinking through knowledge construction, through purposeful knowledge construction. So it's very kind of moment specific. Sometimes it's if you I use the example of accounting. So if you start teaching accounting to people who's never done accounting, you have to teach them what's an asset. And it's the most effective way to do that, and you can do that through discovery learning, but you sacrifice effectiveness at the cost of process. And then when you get to higher order thinking and to analysis and synthesis, that kind of thing, you have to have lots of students in student control. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Tarit. Sorry to cut you there, but thank you very much. We've got the abstraction from group 4. Thank you very much, Najma. She's written it on the chat. So the abstraction there was that you can never see them as binaries. Yes, great. And then there's another one comment. Me too. I thought I'm making it accessible. I don't know. Sorry, I didn't get that one. Our time is up. Yo, Lord. Okay, Nez, please just close. Our time is up. I will stick on the
I think we
chat.
have run.
We've run out completely. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. That was lovely. I wish we had more time for it. I'll just post on the chat now some of the resources that you could use to basically just sort of read up about the various approaches. But I'm sad that we don't have now to but I'm sure we can write something together. But it is exactly what some of you have already, what has emerged from the discussion about them not being a binary. And like Gerrit was saying now, the layering like the student-centeredness, the teacher-centeredness, and the learning-centeredness are all in there. It's a matter of adapting to the context at a specific time of you teaching. Thank you. Sorry, Dom, we're done. Thanks everyone
all
for
good.
indulging us. But let's
Thank you,
carry on with this
Dom.
conversation. It was lovely.
Thanks very much, Nezuko, for helping us unpack these concepts. I think we all still have to do a bit more talking and thinking about them.